Hi, my name is Ron Scanlon and welcome to my video. What I'm going to do today is teach you some self-defense in an art called Kung Fu San Soo. Kung Fu San Soo is strictly a fighting technique. It's not a sport where we go into a ring to use ourselves where there's a referee and an opponent that should I hurt him a little bit too much that they're going to call the game right there. This is strictly for the street, self-defense techniques that are meant to hurt a man bad enough to allow you to escape. In San Soo, our philosophy is that it doesn't matter whether you're standing up, sitting down, or lying down, fighting is all the same. You've got to be able to use yourself from every position. I don't care if you're able-bodied or disabled. If you're sitting in a bar somewhere and somebody comes up and starts to throw a punch at you, you can't say, wait, hey, let me stand up, because that's the only way I've trained to fight. What you need to do is to be able to use yourself from a sitting position, standing position, lying down. Maybe you're in bed at night. And somebody breaks into your house, puts their hands around your throat. You can't say, wait, let me get out of bed. So you've got to be able to use your environment as well as yourself, no matter what your situation is. What I'd like to start off doing today is to start with some basics, show you how to punch, how to kick, how to block, and then from there we'll go into some leverages, what to do if somebody should grab you or try and throw you to the ground, something of that nature. From there we'll go to defenses against punches and kicks. What I'd like to start off doing is work with Ben Smith, who's a 7th degree black belt. This is called an extension punch. To give you an example of what it looks like, he punches at me. I strike him, I punch here. What I'm doing is when I punch, I'm striking with the top 2 knuckles only because the bottom 2 are extremely weak and fragile. When you punch, you want to extend your shoulders so that you got your body behind it. And you're going to strike into, for instance, maybe his solar plexus or groin or nose. You keep your wrist straight so that you're not going to hurt your wrist. If it's bent one way or another and you put force against that, you're going to injure your wrist. The other thing that you want to do is to keep your arm slightly bent. There's going to be about 5 degrees left before you completely straighten your arm. If you completely straighten your arm, you'll hyperextend it, and that's going to be similar to a tennis elbow injury. So when you punch, it's top 2 knuckles only. You're going to keep your wrist straight and your elbow slightly bent. The other thing about a punch is that wherever my hands are at, that's where I punch from. If my hands are here, that's where I punch from. If my hands were behind my back, that's where I'd punch from. It's got to be that way. It's not a John Wayne punch where I'm going to draw back and let my elbow come way back, which would give him an opportunity to punch me. So when you're punching, if he punches at me, I come straight forward to strike. Strike from here. I do whatever. Now what I'd like you to do is just follow along with me and begin to develop the skill of punching. When you first start out, what you want to do is just be in a relaxed position. You're going to let your fist come up. And as you do, you're just going to extend it out this way. Remember to put your shoulder behind it. Your other hand should not be down by the side. It actually should be up here as a guard. So if I punch, for instance, with my right, my left hand comes up. I'd like right now for you to have your thumb up. I want this punch to be vertical. And that's so that I want you to make sure that you're concentrating on your top 2 knuckles. As you punch, you should breathe, and your breathing should start from way down low in your diaphragm. And you want to breathe out at the moment of contact when you strike. So again, one more time, what you want to do is you're going to let your fist come up, and you're going to extend your punch and strike with the top 2 knuckles, making sure that your wrist is straight, your elbow is slightly bent, and you've got your shoulder behind the punch. Never hit anybody with just your arm. See, why hit them with your arm when you could hit them with your whole body? All right? So, and in terms of application, one more time, I may punch here to the groin. I may punch to the solar plexus here, which is going to be just slightly below his chest, or I may punch to his nose here. Now see, I turn my fist just slightly down to keep my bottom knuckles out of the way, and my guard is up. So if he were to punch at me, he punches, block, and strike him here. And again, I may throw another extension punch here and here. So I'd like you to follow along with me now. This is a right extension punch to the nose. And you're going to punch here. This is to the solar plexus. This is to the groin. This is with your left. To the solar plexus. and to the groin. So you're punching here. Now I'd like to demonstrate how this is done from a standing position. What I'm going to have done is Ben Smith is going to do an extension punch, and he's going to start with his right, and he's going to step into a right horse. When you step into this position, it puts 60% of your body weight behind the punch. So it's very important that you understand how to step if you're stepping and punching at the same time. You must have timing with your punch and your step. You do not want to step and then punch. They are together. So an example of this is Ben's going to step in and throw a punch. He's got his guard up. He steps in a right horse. The right knee is bent. Back leg is straight, or his left leg. His feet are pointed diagonally, just as if he was on skis, and that increases his balance. And again, he's got his guard up. And his posture, if you got to look and see yourself if you can, the best thing to do is to work in front of a mirror. It allows you to see any mistakes that you're making, and allows you to look at your posture. So again, this time with the left, he steps into punch, and the punch is timed. His foot and punch strike together. He's aiming for the nose, and his guard is up. Left horse, which means that the left leg is forward, back leg is straight. This time to the solar plexus, he steps into punch. And with your left, and to the groin. Keeping his back straight. Just because his groin is lower target to punch at doesn't mean that he's going to lean and bend, because that would put him in an off-balance position. When he steps in to punch at the groin, he keeps his back straight. The next strike I'd like to teach you is called a backhand. And with a backhand, you're going to make a good tight fist. That means that you curl your fingers in and your thumb gets tucked down. You never ever want it on top with your thumb sticking out, and you never ever want it inside, because both of those positions will get your hand injured. What you want to do is to curl your fingers and tuck your thumb down. From here, a backhand, what you're going to do is you're going to turn, bringing your fist over to your hip, trying to point your shoulder as much as you can at your target, and you're going to turn out as you strike with the meaty portion of your hand, so that you're striking here, and you're going to come back into a guard position. Again, as I strike, my left hand isn't just down here. I come up and bring my guard, all right, as I strike. It is just like as if I had a sword on my hip and I was going to pull it out. And I strike here, or I strike here. So it's a backhand here or here. Other thing that some people do or have a tendency to do is to take their little finger and point it up. Make sure that you keep everything tight. If you strike a man with a weak hand, or where there's space in there in your fist, you're going to hurt your hand, because it's just going to collapse. It's got to be tight. When I come into this position, I keep it loose, and just as I make contact, that's when I make sure my fist is tight. And it's something that you have to practice. A good way to practice it is on a heavy bag. So to see it as an application, if this man punches at me, I block and I backhand him here. He may punch, I block, and I backhand to his solar plexus. He could punch, I block, I backhand to his groin. See? Then I could backhand to his nose. Very, very powerful strike, because a lot of your body, you're able to recruit a lot of your body into this strike. So real slow, he punches at me, I block, and I strike here. He punches here, I block, and I strike here. He punches, I block, opening his body up to strike to his ribs. He punches, I block, and strike to set up for another punch. So I'd like you to do this with me now. What you're going to do with your right hand comes across to your left hip, making sure that you turn your body as much as you can. Try and increase your flexibility, and you're going to strike out here. Left hand goes over to your right hip, strike here. Real slow, it's a strike here and back in. With your left over to your right hip, strike here and come back. Make sure that you never ever practice just your right or just your left. You want to be somebody that is equal on both sides. You don't want somebody to know that your left side is weak. With regard to fighters, there are no left-handed or right-handed fighters, just fighters. So with a little bit more speed, you're bringing your fist over, and you strike. Fist over, with your right, and your left. Now I'd like to show you this from a standing position. What's going to happen is that you're going to bring your right fist over to your left hip, and you're going to step a little bit wide this time and allowing your pelvis to turn into this movement, giving you a little bit more power. So real slow as he steps in, he's going to strike, and that's how he would strike if he was following through. When striking, there's two ways to practice. You can strike right to the target or right through the target, but never practice always where you're striking through the target, because what will happen is that you're not really developing good accuracy. If you're striking to the target, as he pivots and steps in, he's striking right to the temple, knowing that he's on target. So with his left, he just pivots, step in and strike. Make sure that you're using as much body as you can, timing your step and your punch once again. This time with your right to the ribs, he's going to pivot, step in and strike. And with his left, pivots, step in and strike. This is to the groin. He's going to step in, strike. Again, look at his posture. It's a low target, but he's keeping his back straight, and his guard is up. And with the left, he steps in and strike. One other thing I want to make sure that you realize is that every time he strikes, he breathes out. He doesn't hold his breath. If you were going to lift a big heavy weight, you wouldn't hold your breath to do it. You breathe out. That gives you more power. All right? The next strike I'd like to show you is called a hammer. I need to contrast a backhand and a hammer because both strikes require that you hit with the same portion of your hand. A backhand crosses the center line of your body coming to your hip to strike, and a hammer is going to stay on the same side of the center line. So my fist comes up to my ear, and as I come down, I'm going to strike, making sure that my fist is tight at the moment of contact. And again, I'm striking with this portion of my hand. Fist is tight, no fingers up, my thumb is tucked down. So you're striking here or here. See, so this is, you bring your fist up to your ear, keeping it tight. Don't start it out wide. You keep it tight because you've got more power the closer you are to your body, and you strike, making sure that your guard is up. So this is your left, you strike, and this is your right, you strike. To show the application of this, if this man punches, I block, I strike to his groin. From here, I hammer the back of his neck. Both strikes are hammers. As he punches at me, I block, I hammer to his groin. Now I hammer to the back of his neck. If he punches with his left, I block, hammer, come up close to my ear, and strike down here. Back of his neck, could be his spine, anywhere along his back. So if you'll do this with me, this is a hammer. Your fist comes up to your ear. Have your hand out here in front of you. Don't have it down here where it's not doing you any good. Fist comes up and you strike. I want you to strike straight down to the center. Here. A little bit faster. From a standing position, what I'd like you to do is, again, you're going to step into a half horse. And in this situation, he's going to step into hammer to the nose, and he strikes here. Again, his fist comes up to his ear, and he strikes down with the meaty portion of his hand or the bottom portion of your hand. So as the opponent punches, he blocks out, taking one step. Now he's going to take another to increase the power for the strike. So a little bit faster, it looks like this. With the left, he's striking. Again, going right to the target, making sure that he's on target. Accuracy is the name of the game in self-defense. If you hit a man wrong or you don't hit him in the right spot, you're going to make him real aware of maybe how good a fighter you are or aren't. So real slow. He steps in to strike to the nose. If he stepped in to strike to the solar plexus, he's going to move his fist out at just at a slightly different angle. So he steps in to hammer. And if he went to the groin, Again, keeping his back straight, even though it's a lower target. Posture is everything. With the left, striking to the solar plexus and then to the groin. The next strike I'd like to show you is called a roundhouse. And with this punch, again, you're concentrating on the top two knuckles. Normally this punch is done after you've already hit somebody because it has some telegraph to it, which means that my arm is going to come out, leaving a little open spot. So I want to hurt a man first so that when I come through him, that he's not going to have an opportunity to punch me. Your fist can be one of two ways, either with your thumb up or with your thumb or with your fist horizontal. I turn my fist horizontal in a sitting position because I'm not able to step around to the side of a man to get a good strike in when my fist is this way. I have to bend it too much. So to make sure that my wrist stays straight, what I do is I turn my fist horizontal. That makes these two knuckles extend out and it's striking flat against the target. So the strike is going to be here. You're just going to bring your fist out and punch through, either with it flat or with your thumb up. So you're striking here. 1, 2. 1, 2. So you're striking here. Striking here. Real slow one more time. I'm striking here or here. And with my left, same thing. I strike here or here. And again, practice in front of a mirror. It's the best opportunity for you to look at yourself and see what you're doing that's right or wrong. With an application, he punches at me, I block, strike to bring him down. From here, I strike to his temple. He punches here, I block, and I strike here. So a little bit faster, he punches, 1, here, or he punches, here. Real slow, he punches, I'm blocking, striking to his groin to bring his head down, and I strike here to the temple. Or he punches, I block, strike, I strike with my fist flat this time, this way. I could strike to his temple, his cheek, or his jaw. He punches at me, I block, strike, and I hook here. See? One more time, he punches, block, strike, and I strike to his jaw or his temple. From a standing position this time to show this strike, again, you're going to time your punch with your step. As the opponent punches, he's going to kick him to the groin and then strike him with a roundhouse punch to the temple. From the left side, he kicks and punches. He steps in at the same time and turning his body so that he recruits the most amount of body power that he can. From the right side again, steps in, punches, and strikes to the temple. Opponent punches, and he strikes. Real slow this time. Kicks him to the groin, punches to the temple. Opponent steps in, kick to the groin, punch to the temple. One time fast. Next strike I'd like to show you is called an uppercut. And what you're going to do, if your hands were down here at your side, you're going to bring your fist up, keeping it somewhat tight to your body, and you're going to strike straight up and through. I'd like to see your fist come to at least the top of your head because that's good follow through. So with your left, you're striking up this way. So a little bit faster, it's here. With your left, you're striking. I follow all the way through. I'm making sure my fist is turned slightly, making sure that these bottom two knuckles are out of the way, top two are striking, and I follow through. When you do this, strike right through the center of your body. So you should see your fist come right up in front of your face so that you're striking here and here. And again, making sure that you breathe out as you strike. With application, he punches at me, I block and strike, and I strike up this way. He punches at me here, I block, I strike, and I uppercut here. All right? Real slow, he punches, block, strike, I uppercut here, right underneath his chin. He punches, I block, strike, uppercut. One time fast, he punches, I strike him, he punches, and then follow through. So now with me, I'm going to do a couple here slow. What you're going to do is if your fists are down at your side or in your lap, you're going to strike straight up. Fist coming up at least as high as the top of your head. You're going to strike up here, here, with your left, with your right, left, right, a little bit of speed. From a standing position, the uppercut looks like this. As the opponent steps in, he blocks and he's striking straight up underneath the chin. The step this time is slightly different, or the stance is, Paul, if you back up, the horse, this is called a full horse, where his weight is evenly distributed over his hips. His feet are pointed straight out. His knees are both slightly bent, almost as if he was riding on a horse. This is called a full horse, and it evenly distributes your weight for this strike. Real slow as he steps in to strike, uppercuts underneath the chin. This time without a punch, he steps in, uppercuts. Got his guard up, his back is straight, weight's evenly distributed over his legs. They're out into a full horse, knees slightly bent. This time, 2 times with a punch. He strikes, and with the left. This next strike is called a back knuckle. With a back knuckle, you're going to keep your hand loose. You want to recruit a lot of speed. This is not a movement for a great deal of power. It's more like a cutting strike. So as I strike, my wrist is going to flick, allowing my knuckles to strike out this way. I don't want it to be a power strike because, again, my wrist is flexing here. It's just meant to be a cutting strike. I strike his eyebrow, his cheekbone, his nose, something of that nature. So the strike is here, and it's flicking. There's no telegraph in this punch. If my hands are down here at my side, I strike. If they were behind me, I'd strike here. So with your right, real slow, you're going to strike. My hand is loose. Just before contact, I tighten it up. And it's here with the left. It's loose. And then I strike. So a little faster, it's here. Strike. My left. Now with an application, he punches at me. I strike him. He punches. I block. I strike him here. It's a back knuckle. I strike to his cheekbone, his eyebrow, his nose. Real slow. He punches at me. I block and I strike. My fist is tight here, and I let my wrist flick this way. He punches, block, strike. He punches, block, strike. I could strike him to the groin. He punches, block, I strike. Punches here, block, strike. From the left, if he punches, block, strike to his groin. See? He punches, block, to his face. Now with me, you're going to start with your right, real slow. You're just going to reach out loose and let your hand follow through to flick. With your left, you strike. With your right, with your left. Now with a little bit of speed, you strike. With your left, with your right, with your left, with your right, and with your left. Now from a standing position, the back knuckle looks like this. As he steps out with his right leg into a right horse, back knuckles to the temple, making sure you're on target, got your guard up, posture straight. Remember, a right horse is that you've got your right knee bent, your back leg straight. With your horse, you want to make sure that your knee is not way up over your toes. You want to make sure that your leg is perpendicular to the ground. Otherwise, you'll begin to injure your knee. With the left, he steps out to strike and hits him to the temple. Off of a punch, looks like this. Steps out and strikes. Now from the left, he's going to step out and strike. What he's doing is evading the punch. He doesn't have to block this. He's going to step out of the way of the punch. As the opponent punches, he steps out and back knuckles to the temple. Now fast from the right, he punches, strikes him. From the left, he punches and strikes him. Breathing and striking at the same time, very important. Next, what I'd like to show you is a cross block. This is for blocking punches or kicks. Cross block is done with your forearm. You want to make sure that you're using the muscle or meaty part of your arm and not the bone. If somebody were to punch flat and you strike with the bone of your arm, it's going to hurt because that's going to be bone against bone. It's much better if you use the muscle of your arm and you're going to come across your face this way. And as you get through over here, then your arm can begin to turn out. But the contact of the block must be, or should be, with your forearm, the muscle part of your arm. So now I'd like you to do a few of these with me. This is a right cross block. You're going to block here. With your left. With your right. With your left. When you block and you come through, you want to make sure that you can keep your arm straight up and down as much as possible. When you're sitting, because you're not able to put your hips behind this, it's much harder to do. So you really got to use your upper body and flex your upper torso as much as you can. If you allow your arm to start to drop down this way, it's possible for the punch to slide through and still connect. So you're blocking, keeping your arm straight up and down this way. Real slow, you're blocking with your right, with your left, with your right, and with your left. Even though I'm blocking, I still have a guard up in case another punch were to come in. With application, doesn't matter which punch the opponent throws. As he punches, I block here, and I may strike and follow through. He punches with his other, see, strike here. All right. He punches, I block here, strike. He punches, I block, strike. Real slow, it looks like this. He punches, I block. He punches, I block. All right. I want to be sure to follow through because when I follow through, that turns this man's body. He punches at me, see, and it sets him up for the next strike. See, he punches here, see, makes his body come down. Then I strike him. All right. It's called a cross block. So if you'll do a few with me here, this is a right cross block here. Make sure you follow all the way through. Don't just come to here. If he's aiming for your nose, now he gets you in the eye. Make sure you follow through. Blocking here with your right, with your left. My hands were down at my side. I simply come up and block here. Block here. See? From a standing position, the cross block looks like this. What you're going to be doing is stepping into a full horse. Again, this gives you a lot of power. As the opponent punches, he blocks here, and then he would follow through with a backhand. If it was the other punch, cross blocks and backhand. Paul, if you'll try this. Opponent punches, cross block, backhand, going into a full horse, and with the other punch, cross block and backhand. Real slow. Again, a block is executed just like a punch would be. He steps and blocks at the same time, and then he sets him up for the next strike. Real slow, punches, block and step at the same time, and then pivot as you backhand. Paul, if you'll try this, steps into punch, cross block and backhand. And from the other side, punches, cross block and step at the same time, and then backhand. The next block I'd like to show you is called an out block. As if the punch was coming at my nose, I'm going to block with the outside of my arm, again using the muscle of my arm, and I move the punch to the outside of my body. I'm not going to block and let my arm swing way out here because that leaves me vulnerable, leaves me open. So I'm blocking, keeping my arm tight into me so that I don't open up too much, but enough to get the punch out of the way. With my left, I block here, and again, my right hand is up as a guard. So the block is this way. And I'm using the outside of my arm to block here. This is a little faster. I block with my left, and I'm ready here to strike or continue blocking. The application is this way. Again, it doesn't matter which punch he throws, I can still use the same block. Real slow, I block here to strike and punch. He punches here, I may block, punch here or here. If he punches here, I block, strike, or if he punches here, I may block, strike to his kidney, his throat, or whatever. All right? A little faster, he punches, strike him. See? He punches, I strike him. He punches here, I block and strike. He punches here, block, strike. I'm using my forearm, so when he punches, I block here. All right? So now with me, with your right, you're going to block. This is slow. You block to the outside of your body, left hand up if you're right, blocking with your right. With your left, you block out, outside of your body, just a little bit beyond shoulder width. You want to make sure that the opponent continues to move. See? So you're blocking here. A little bit faster. Block here. My right. From a standing position, the out block looks like this. As the opponent punches, he out blocks and then strikes. The block and the step are executed at the same time so that your power and your body momentum is all going at the same time, same direction. From the other side, he punches, out block and strike. With a little bit of speed, looks like this. The other side. Paul, if you'll try this slow. Punches, block and strike at the same time. He's stepping out of the way of the punch. He's going into a half horse. Or for this particular time, it's a right horse. The opponent punches, blocks, step out of the way, and strikes. And he's going this time into a left horse. This time a little faster. From the other side. This particular block is called a low forearm block, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using your forearm. This is for a punch that's coming at you low. You may not have time to come up here and try and block a punch out of the way. Plus, if it continues driving, maybe it doesn't hit you in the solar plexus or lower stomach, but maybe it hits you in the groin because you're continuing to let it just go straight through your body. So you're going to move the punch out of the way by either using your forearm this way, or you can use it this way. The only thing about coming here is you got to have your hand up, because what will happen is the punch can ride up. If you block this way, it's a little bit safer because you can get a better angle on the punch. So you're blocking here, or here with your left, or to turn your arm in this way. So you're using the outside of your forearm. You're blocking here, or here. Real slow, you're blocking here, or here. You're blocking here with your outside of your forearm and the outside of your forearm. Again, two ways to block, inside of your forearm or the outside. Here's the application for this block. As the opponent punches low, I turn my body out to strike him. Doesn't matter which punch he throws, I can use the same block. He punches, I block here. I may strike to his throat or punch to the groin, whatever. With my left, he punches at me. I block here. See, strike him. Or he punches at me. I block here. See, strike, strike. A little bit faster, he punches. See, and then I strike him. Punches here. I block, I strike. See, the palm. All right? So, a little bit slower. He punches at me. I block here and strike. He may punch at me. I block here. See, strike him. With my right, he punches. I block. This is using my forearm this way with the inside to strike him. He punches at me. I block here. Strike, throat, or whatever. So if you'll try this with me, you're going to block here with the outside of your forearm. We're going to do this 4 times. This is your right. Your left. your right, and your left. With the inside of your forearm, left, right, and left. Real slow, your right, inside, left, inside, right, outside, left, outside. From a standing position, the block looks like this. As the opponent punches, he's going to block outside of his forearm, and then he's going to step in and knee and backhand. From the other side, opponent punches, blocks, knees and backhands. A little bit faster now. And from the other side. What he's doing is he's just making a slight movement with his feet because the opponent is so close that it's hard for him to make a full step into this block. So real slow, as the opponent punches, he just pivots his body, and now he's going to step in, knee and backhand. From the other side, he's just coming up on the ball of his foot, knee and backhand. Paul, if you'll try this. Opponent punches, blocks, knees, backhand. From the other side, blocks, knee and backhand. Now with some speed, he punches. And from the other side, knees and backhands. Another point that I'd like to make about blocking is that when somebody is punching at you, if you're practicing blocks, you do not ever want to have a punch staring you in the face without blocking it. So for instance, this is the wrong thing to do. Is let's say that I wanted a left punch and he threw me a right punch. Just don't look at it and not block it, see, and then say, no, I wanted that punch. If he throws the wrong punch when you're practicing, then block it out of the way and say, no, I wanted that one. But never ever practice something wrong. If a punch is coming at you, block it or move out of the way. Even if moving out of the way is just as if he punches, I move. See, say, no, I wanted the other punch. But don't ever, ever let a punch just stare you in the face without blocking it. The next set of skills that I'd like you to learn are some kicks. And it's very important that you learn how to kick if you're able to use your feet, because they are such powerful weapons with regard to your body. Your legs have so much muscle to them that a kick is very powerful and can hurt a man. Whether or not you are an able-bodied person or you have maybe a disability with your upper extremities, those kinds of reasons are important for you to learn how to kick. So what I'm going to start off doing is to show you a front snap kick. And with Ben, what's going to happen here is he's going to do a front snap kick. Now, you have to concentrate on balance. Balance is very important. It's important that you understand that you don't put your leg down, you set it down. You don't ever have to step. You step because you want to step. And that if you work with that kind of concept, then your balance with regard to your kicks is going to get very strong. So the first kick is a front snap kick. I want you to start off learning it in 3 stages because it helps you to develop your balance. The first step is that you're going to raise your leg, bringing your knee up hip high. You're going to curl your toes back because the point of contact I want to be the ball of foot. So he's going to snap the leg out and then bring it back, keeping his leg in the air. Then you step down. So this kick, pick your leg up, snap it out and bring it back, and then step down. After you kick, when training for this kind of kick, I'd like you to snap the kick out, and then what I want you to do is to count to 2 so that you know you've got control of your balance, and then you could step forward, you could step to the side, you could step back, you could step over to your right. So what he's going to do is a little bit faster this time. The kick needs to be smooth. So a little bit faster, he kicks here. A couple of different ways that this kick is used. Paul, if you come in. For instance, he could do a front snap kick to the knee. Here, he could do a kick to his groin. He could do a kick to his solar plexus. All right. So a little combination can be here. He does a front snap kick to his groin and then to his throat. One more time, real slow. He kicks to his groin, now to his throat. And Paul, if you'll kick to the groin and then to the throat. One more time. To the throat. It's important that you practice and try and get height in kicks is important, but it's not the most important thing. It's important that you have strong kicks and that you're accurate with him, but I don't have to kick his head way up here. He could kick him to the groin, for instance, like he just did, bring his head low and then kick to his head. So you don't have to kick at somebody's head right off the bat, especially if it's a man who's real tall. Maybe you want to bring him down to your height first and then kick him. Another kick I'd like to show you is a side kick. It's a very effective kick to any portion of a man's body, whether you're going low or whether you're going high. And it's done with the edge of your foot, and this is how it's done. You have to turn your foot slightly out. You're going to take a slight initial step. He steps out with his left and turns his toes out so that when he brings his leg up, his hips are already beginning to turn. Now as he snaps the kick out, he finishes the pivot on his base foot and strikes with the edge of his foot. To strike with the edge of your foot, you've got to try and turn your foot down as much as you can. So he takes a step, then brings his leg up, and that step, remember, it pivots him out so he slightly turns his hip, and then he snaps the kick out. All right? It's important that you get a full pivot in when you're kicking. His base foot is going to pivot almost 180 degrees because that allows him to lean over his foot. If his toes were here and he leaned over, he's leaning over the edge of his foot, and that's not very good balance. But if he turns his toes out this way, that way, when he leans over his body, see, then he can snap the kick out and have real good balance. So again, real slow, brings his leg up and snaps the kick out and pivots his foot. And with the other leg, steps out. Make sure you always practice on both sides. One more time. He kicks. All right? Making sure your guard is up. Don't let your hand go way behind you. Keep it either alongside your leg or up next to your ribs. So one more time. When he kicks, his hand's either down alongside his legs or it can be up next to his ribs. Kick one more time. Up next to your ribs this way. Great. Now what I want to do is to demonstrate how this kick's used. Here what he can do is he can side kick to several different areas of this man's body again. So one of the fastest and best kicks is, for instance, to go to his knee. So he steps and side kicks to his knee. All right. He can go up to his solar plexus, and he can go up to his throat. With his other leg, he kicks and kick and kick. Great. Next kick I'd like to show you is called a back kick. This kick, it's as if you were going to turn your back to an opponent. What you're going to do is you're going to back kick him, your toes pointed to the ground, and your back is going to be to him. The way it's demonstrated is like this. The striking area can either be the heel of your foot or the flat of your foot. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn, bringing your leg up. You step out with your foot, pointing your toes out, making the pivot a little bit easier. You don't have quite as much pivot to make. Now when he brings his leg up, he's turning his body and extends the back kick. Again, it's with either the heel or the flat of your foot. It's a real hard kick to do slow, so a little bit faster. He pivots out and then back kicks. It's important that you don't look over your shoulder. If you look over your shoulder, that brings your leg down. If you look alongside your body, you're able to kick higher. So when he kicks, watch his head. He's going to look down alongside his body. And the other way, again, he kicks, looking down alongside his body and not over his shoulder. Now to demonstrate this kick in application, what we're going to do is we're going to back kick to the groin and then back kick to the face. This is a great way to practice this kick. So he back kicks to the groin and now back kicks to the face. All right, a little slower to give you some detail. He's going to step pointing his toes out at a diagonal angle. From here, he's going to back kick to the groin. Now he steps down, pointing his heel at his opponent, pivots his body, and then back kick with his left. A little bit faster with some speed. And as you come out of this kick, make sure that you turn and face your opponent. Don't continue to leave your back to your opponent. Next kick I want to demonstrate to you is called a roundhouse kick. It's either done with the ball of your foot, so that means you have to curl your toes back, or it's done with the very top of your foot. The thing about this kick, though, if you're using the top of your foot, you got to strike to a fleshy portion of the body, because it's bone here. If you strike, for instance, to his cheek where it's very hard, or try to hit him in the temple where there's a lot of bone that surrounds your skull, bone against bone, it could hurt. So if you had shoes on, though, that's a lot of protection for you. So then, yeah, you could use the top part of your foot and maybe kick here. But otherwise, use the ball of your foot or strike to maybe the neck, because that's fleshy, maybe the ribs, the thigh. Those kinds of areas where it wouldn't hurt your foot. The ball of the foot you can pretty much strike anywhere. So demonstrate this kick. What he's going to do is he's going to raise his leg. Again, he's pivoting out as he kicks, and it's coming around towards my temple, for instance, and that's with the ball of the foot. Now, if he wanted to kick to my neck, then he'd use the top of his foot. So what he does is he keeps his foot tight and points his toes down in order that his foot is tight so he doesn't hurt his foot. If it was just loose and he kicked something with it, it'd hurt him. So to show you this kick, here we're going to use a little more dexterity, something for you to work for. And Paul's not going to respond to this in order for Ben to practice this kick. So here's what happens, is that as he punches, he's just going to kick to the groin, solar plexus, and then the temple. Again. Groin, solar plexus, and the neck. Next kick I'd like to demonstrate to you is called a soccer kick. And it's actually done with the arch of your foot. It's important that you understand that this kick is like to check somebody, or it could actually stop a kick, or it can stop them from stepping in. The way this kick is done, again, it's with the arch of your foot. You want one hand to always come kind of high, because if you kick somebody in the shin, their head comes down. If you're too close, maybe my head bumps your head. So what happens here is that as he kicks to my shin, he's using the arch of his foot. He kicks, that brings me forward for him to follow through with something else. It's with the arch of your foot. With the other side, he steps in, he kicks, again, arch of your foot. It's important that the base leg, the leg you're balancing on, is slightly bent. If it's bent, you've got better balance and you've got a little bit more room to follow through. It allows your body to compensate better so that you can follow through. So one more time, he kicks, watch how his knee is slightly bent, allowing good follow through. He's got good extension here. So to see this kick done, as the opponent begins to punch, what's going to happen is he just blocks and kicks to the shin. Again. Good. This time real slow. He's just blocking, kicking to his shin, bringing the man down. And the other way. Blocks and kicks to the shin. Again, knee slightly bent in order for your balance and your follow through to be good. Great. Last kick I'd like to show you. Now this isn't all of the kicks. This is just a few of the kicks that we have. But this is plenty for you to practice on. So the last kick I'd like to show you is a stomp kick. Stomp kick is when maybe an opponent's down on the ground and you need to make sure he's not going to chase you. So maybe what you do is you step in and stomp on his ankle. If you break his ankle, he's not going to come running after you, see? So this is just a different kind of kick that really employs the whole use of your body. So the way this kick is done, instead of using me, what he's going to do is he's just going to hop up slightly. There's a little hop to get momentum going up in the air. And as you come down, you're kicking down into your opponent. It's not where you just want to land with your weight. You also need to make it a kick, stomp into the ground. So what he does is he just moves forward, lifts his body in the air. You're hopping on one foot, same leg. If you're going to stomp with your right, you hop up onto your left foot and stomp with your right. You're striking at the same time your other foot hits the ground in order for you to maximize momentum that you're using. So for instance, an application what this would look like is this. If he was going to maybe just step in and stomp to his toes or the top part of his foot, he can move in and stomp, see, and then follow through with whatever. If he stomped to the other foot, here. See? Now, if an opponent was on the ground, let's say that he throws him to the ground. Opponent punches. From here, keeping your feet closer together, though you can look down to see where your opponent's at, make sure that you don't bend your back. Keep your back straight. You want to make sure you can sight your opponent, but don't lean. One more time. Throws a punch, block, take the opponent down. Now that he's down, you could stomp there. If you were in a different position, you could stomp to the groin, to the ribs, to the ankle, wherever. So what you have now are 6 kicks. You have a front snap kick, you have a side kick, a back kick, a roundhouse kick, soccer kick, and a stomp kick. All of these are extremely valuable weapons in your arsenal as far as your body is concerned. So the more that you train with these in practicing different kinds of kicks to different portions of a man's body, the more you're able to use yourself. What I'd like to do now is to introduce you to some other blocking techniques that are slightly more advanced. It's important that you understand that in doing these techniques you really need to have the basic blocking skills, which was explained earlier. You need to really have those down and feeling very strong and comfortable before you move on to the next blocking techniques. So the first blocking technique I'd like to show you is called a snapping block. And what it is I'm going to use the edge of my hand to strike into an opponent's arm. A block doesn't have to be just a block. It can actually be your first strike. You have several nerves that run up through your arm that would be considered pressure points. If you block into these points, what it does is make a man's arm kind of freeze up because you immobilize it. So what happens here is that as the opponent punches, I'm blocking right into the top part of his forearm. That's where several nerves are running, and then I could strike and follow up. So as he punches, I strike him here. From the other punch, same block, I'm striking right here into his forearm. It makes it hurt. It's almost like a Charlie horse. Then I might chop into his nose. So as he punches, I strike him. Again, this is a very, very hard block, very powerful. So when you're practicing this, you probably won't be able to go too very long before your arm starts really hurting. So when you're initially practicing this, go slow so that you get in the block. You're starting it up here and you snap the block in to his arm. So as he punches, I'm striking here. If he punches here, I'm popping it here and then following through. Now what I'd like you to do is to follow along with me. As the opponent punches, imagine the punch coming at your nose, your arm is going to come up, and you want to have your wrist turned out so that as you execute the block, you're forcing your hand out this way and you're striking with the edge of your hand. So real slow with me here, it's strike here. With your left, it's strike here. With your right, here. With your left, here. With your right, here. And your left, here. With some speed, strike. Your left, your right, with your left. From a standing position, you're going to step slightly outside the punch. As the opponent punches, real slow, he steps out into a horse and strikes into his arm. This is a half horse. Again. He punches, step in and block. From the other side, as the opponent punches, he blocks. One more time. He's stepping out with his left as he blocks with his left. So as the opponent punches, step in and strike. Now 2 times with some speed and follow up. As the opponent punches, with the left. The next advanced block I'd like to introduce to you is called a catch block, which is a little bit deceiving because actually you're blocking first and then catching the punch. It's important that I bring out a couple points to you about catching a punch. It's not a situation where an opponent punches real slow and I'm trying to grab his fist in this manner. That's not what I mean by a catch block. As he punches, I'm blocking here with my forearm and I want his arm to move this way. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my hand over this way, and as his arm continues, it goes right into my hand. Then what I'm going to do is follow up maybe with a leverage or some kind of strike. It's the same with the other. I come this way, I'm blocking it out, I let my hand drop over, and then I grab. If I block down this way, what happens is as I block down, even no matter how much I curl my fingers, it's going to miss. So it's important that you make sure this is a cross block. As he punches, I block here, and maybe I come here. See? He punches with the other hand, I block, and I come here. Then I may punch or follow up. So he punches, come here. He punches, follow up. So again, real slow with me. What you're doing is you're blocking this way, making sure this is a good strong cross block, and then you just simply let your hand drop over to catch it. It's just like throwing a ball into a glove. You hit and grab. Important thing about the catch block is that when he punches, if I block and I catch it, I'm in great shape. Then I can follow through with whatever kind of technique I have planned out. But as he punches, if for some reason I miss it, I don't reach again for this punch, I immediately strike. So for instance, if he punches and I block, I strike him, see, and then follow through with something else. Don't ever try and reach in for the hand again, because he'll hit you if you try that. Now with me, what you're going to do is you're going to block here, letting your hand just drop over. Try and keep your arm straight up and down as much as you can, then you would come back with it. Or you'd block here, letting your hand drop over, grab, and bring it back. So it's just a movement here. Or here. So you're blocking. Important thing about the catch block is that when he punches, if I block and I catch it, I'm in great shape. Then I can follow through with whatever kind of technique I have planned out. But as he punches, if for some reason I miss it, I don't reach again for this punch, I immediately strike. So for instance, if he punches and I block, I strike him, see, and then follow through with something else. Don't ever try and reach in for the hand again, because he'll hit you if you try that. Now with me, what you're going to do is you're going to block here, letting your hand just drop over. Try and keep your arm straight up and down as much as you can, then you would come back with it. Or you'd block here, letting your hand drop over, grab, and bring it back. So it's just a movement here. Or here. So you're blocking. From a standing position, as the opponent punches, he blocks, kicks, and then moves into a leverage. The other punch, he punches, blocks and grabs, kicks, and then comes into a leverage. With some speed, he punches, and from the other side he punches. Last block I'd like to introduce to you is called a roll block. It's slightly more advanced, and the way this block works is that as the opponent punches, I'm going to block and trap slightly with my right. My left comes over the top to grab his arm, and I'm going to pull him in as I strike to his nose here. So as he punches, 1, 2, 3 here. You want it to be smooth. Try not to fragment this block too much where you're trying to really grab it and you're kind of fixed with your hands. Make it smooth. As he punches, I strike him here. He punches, I strike him this way. If he punches here, I block 1, grab 2, strike 3. He punches, again he punches, strike him. So with me, real slow, you're going to go right, left, right strike. From the other side, left, right, left strike. Again, from the right side, starts out with my right hand, block, grab, pull him in as you strike. From the left side, block with your left, grab with your right, strike with your left. Real fast from the right side, from the left, from the right, and from the left. From a standing position, what you're going to do here is you're going to go into a cat stance with this roll block. As the opponent punches, come into a right cat stance. As you block with your right, grab with your left, and strike with your right. From the other side, he punches, block, going into a left cat, grab with your right, strike with your left. With some speed this time, opponent punches, and with the left, the next thing I'd like to show you are the 8 basic foot movements. These movements are used to develop both power, mobility, flexibility, and improve your ability to generate power as you're stepping into certain punches, strikes, or kicks. Also allows you to maneuver around a man. So I'm going to use Ben Smith to demonstrate the movements. Beginning position is that you're going to have your heels together, your feet are at a 45-degree angle, your knees are going to be slightly bent, and your fists are going to go on your hips. You need that. It's going to bring your chest out, your shoulders are back. You're going to concentrate on both your posture and your balance. First thing he's going to do is he's going to step out into a full horse, starts off to the right side. He's now going to pivot into a right horse. His back leg is straight, right leg is bent. Again, this is a half horse. He's going to slide back into a cat stance. Now this next movement, he's going to step out with his right foot. He's going to take a bigger step than he normally takes, so his left foot is going to slide behind him. Step out and slide. Now what he's going to do is he's going to cross over. Crossover is a very difficult move. With the crossover, he's got his knee just barely above the ground. This foot is turned out, and you want to rotate your chest as far as you can to the front. Now he's going to pivot out into a full horse again. This next movement, he's just going to come slightly up on the ball of his foot. So he pivots up and turns his shoulders. Now to take the next step, he's going to slide up to the center and then back out. When I say slide up to the center, that means he takes one foot to the next foot to get his balance, and then he steps out. One more time, a little bit smoother. He steps out into a full horse. That's 1. 2, he pivots into a right horse. 3, he slides back into a cat. 4, he steps and slides. Again, you're in a right horse. 5, he crosses over. 6, pivots into a full horse. 7, comes up on the ball of his foot. There's no step here. Now 8, as he slides up and step out. And this is a right horse. It's important that you practice this going both ways. You don't want to practice just to the right. Practice both to the right and to the left. Now I'd like to give you an idea of the kinds of things that you could do out of these different stances. It's important that you understand that these aren't the only things that you can do out of these stances. This is just a drop in the ocean of what you can do from these positions. So what we're going to start off with is a full horse. For instance, you could step into a full horse to uppercut, as we've shown you earlier. He steps, uppercuts. Again, he's got a good full horse where his knees are bent, weights evenly distributed over his hips, and the uppercut is coming up. Next, he steps into a half horse. This is a right horse. As he does, he can punch, for instance. He steps in to punch. He could also block or whatever from that position. Next is called a cat stance. And what he can do here is, for instance, let's say he finger jabs. And a cat stance is no weight on the foot. It's important that you understand that he can lift this foot up without shifting his weight. There's no weight on this foot. It's called a kicking stance. That allows him to just kick. All right? If he had weight on his foot, you're in a cat stance, if he had weight on his foot, in order for him to kick with that foot, his body has to change, and then he can raise his leg. So in a cat stance, you're just on the ball of your foot, like you're barely touching the ground. The next position is a crossover. As he crosses over, he backhands and strikes here. All right? Then another step is to step and slide. This is just to make up some distance on an opponent. As he steps out to slide, he punches. And then the last thing that I'm going to show you is that he pivots up on the ball of his foot to punch. And it's just as if an opponent was coming up from the side of him, he's just going to come up on the ball of his foot and punch. Allows him to pivot his body more. The very last step isn't a straight-on half horse. You're stepping out slightly to the angle. And this will allow you to generate with your body, for instance, into a backhand. As he steps out and strikes, he's able, because he steps wider, he's able to pivot his body into this strike. Those are a few of the ways that you could strike from those different positions. There are some drills that I'd like to introduce to you. These drills are meant to both develop power and speed. It's important that you have a balanced combination of those two items, because if you have a lot of speed, you generate a lot of speed, sometimes you can lose some power because you're concentrating so much on how fast you can move that you really don't put a lot of power behind the strike. And if you're moving with just all power, then you're going to lose a lot of speed. So the drills that I'm about to give you, it's important that you concentrate and balance those two things out, where you've got some good speed and you've got good power. The first drill I'd like to show to you is kind of a reaction and speed drill. So first, what I'm going to do, this takes a partner to practice. What you're going to do is you're going to get at arm's length here. You're going to put your fingers on his chest so that you're touching it. The object is that you're going to come back and touch your chest, go back and touch his chest before he can block. Now, it looks like I'm at a disadvantage, but because I'm initiating the move, it's much harder to block than you think. So for me, I'm trying to get inside his block, and for him, he's trying to block the strike. So real slow, it's going to look like this. I start here, I come here and go here, and in the meantime, he will try to block it. So the movement is here. Any time that I can get in to here and start touching his gi, it could have been an opportunity that I could have punched him. So he needs to take it to heart that maybe I touched him. And for me, if he's blocking me, maybe what I'm doing is telegraphing my movement. Maybe what I'm doing is just starting to drop my shoulder a little bit before I move, telling him that I'm about to strike. So it's important. This is a good exercise for getting rid of telegraph. So make sure that your movement is just coming here to here with very little telegraph. Next drill I'd like to introduce to you is just a blocking and punching drill. It's important that you learn to block and strike at the same time. The biggest surprise a man can get is when he's punching you that you actually block and punch him at the same time. So in this particular drill, what I'd like you to do, it's just going to be a simple kind of cross-check block. And for me, because I'm a little bit lower, I'm going to punch low. So real slow, as he punches, I'm just directing this punch past my face and striking into his ribs or solar plexus. Because I'm blocking to the outside of his arm, it's easy for me to direct a punch. If I block to the inside of his arm, it's too hard. You can't direct power. You have to actually maneuver it or change it then. You've got to stop power from the inside, because a man's power always comes to the inside of his body. So when he's punching, blocking to the outside, it can take just a simple check to move the punch out of the way and then strike him. So in doing this, it's important that you get several repetitions in. So as he punches, try a couple times slow. He punches here, and then with some speed. Faster. Punch faster. So all I'm doing is when he punches, I'm blocking to the outside and striking here. If you could do it and you could reach up to his face, as he punches, you can block and strike this way. But make sure that you don't block this too far out, or it could stop your arm from reaching the target. So as he punches, I'm striking here. Again, as he punches, striking here. So with me, what you're going to do is you're going to block. First, we're going to go low. We'll do too low and too high. As the opponent punches, you're blocking and striking underneath here. From the other side, you block here, strike underneath. Fast, it's here. From the other side. Now high. You're going to come up this way, block and strike up high. From the left, block and strike up high. As he punches, here. From the left, striking here. From a standing position, what you'll do is you'll go into a cat as you block and strike. The opponent punches real slow, moves into a right cat as he blocks with his left, strikes with his right. From the other side, it's exactly opposite. Opponent punches, he goes into a left cat, left punch, and it's a right block. Now fast as the opponent punches. From the other side. Now Paul, if you'll try this. The opponent punches, blocks, going into a cat, strikes up. And from the other side. blocks and strikes. Now fast. And from the other side. This particular exercise, what I want you to do is not to concentrate on blocking, but you're actually going to move inside the punch and back knuckle, either to his nose, solar plexus, or groin, doesn't matter. Pick a target and make sure you're always on target as you strike. So what you're going to do, real slow, as the opponent punches at my nose here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move inside this punch and I'm going to strike here. I'm still keeping my hand up here as a guard, just as a safety. So as he punches, I move here and strike, but I'm not blocking with this hand, it's just up as a guard. So fast, I strike him. If I went low, he punches, I strike him to the groin. From the other side, he punches, I strike him. If I go low, he punches, striking into the groin. So what you're doing here is you're moving out diagonally. So you're going to move, if the punch was coming at me, my opponent would be throwing a left punch, I'm going to move out to my left and I'm going to strike up to his nose here. It's a back knuckle, so it flicks. If he was throwing a right punch, I move out to the right and I strike here. So with me, what you're going to do, we're going to move this direction first as he punches, strike here, striking with your right, now to the left, move out and strike. Remember, you just want to move out of the way of the punch. Somebody is aiming here, it's real difficult for you to be over here and them change their punch and have any power behind it. But you've got to practice the timing of this, because if you're moving too soon, then it's easy for them to change because they really haven't gotten too far with their punch. So one more time, moving out here to my left, move out and strike here, moving out to the right, just to push with your chair and then strike. From a standing position, what you're going to do, if you're striking with your right, you're going to step out with your left, going into a right cat, and you're going to strike. If the opponent punches, he moves out and strikes with a back knuckle. Again, the same way, he steps out with his left, strikes with his right. From the other side, he's going to step out with his right into a left cat and strike to the temple. With some speed this time. And from the other side. Good. It's important that you step diagonal. You're not stepping out to the side. It's not a lateral movement. It's a forward movement that is diagonal. Paul, if you'll try this. Striking there. And with the other way. Next exercise I'd like to show you is to actually condition your arms to take some blocks. In San Soo, because we depend a lot on some power blocks in terms of directing an opponent, it's important that you have some conditioned arms in order for somebody to move in and really be able to block you hard without it hurting you. Otherwise, your practice time is going to be limited because you'll have sore arms. One of the ways to condition your arms is just to do this little simple three-step exercise. What we're going to do is we're going to block low here and we're going to strike each other's forearm. Then we're going to just roll it over. We come up and we strike the outside of the forearm. Now we're going to turn it back down, striking the inside of the forearm. Now what you'll do is you switch, strike the forearm, come up outside of the forearm, inside of the forearm. Try and get a little rhythm going here. And as you're able to do so, begin to pick up the power so that you're striking harder and harder. Good. What I'd like now to demonstrate is what would be considered the hardest skill in our art to develop. And for me, I'm just going to call this term working out. And what that means is that though I've given you several lessons that are prearranged, out in the street nothing is prearranged or rehearsed. It's important that you understand that because you don't know who your opponent might be, that you're able to strike to vulnerable places of his body, and you're able to do this instantly and react to the situation. You're not going to react because he threw a right punch. The lesson said you kick to the groin, step in, hammer, break his arm, palm to the nose, stomp on his groin. You're going to only do those things because those opportunities become available as you begin blocking and moving. As you begin and start learning this skill, you need to start out slow because it's really easy to hurt somebody. In addition to starting out slow also allows your opponent to learn how to react in this kind of situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out just working out slow. I'm not going to know what punches or kicks my opponent's going to throw. I'm simply going to react, block, or move out of the way of the strike. I'm then going to strike him and counter with something, take him to the ground always. Always finish off your opponent. Even though out in the street you may be able to block and maybe just hit somebody and he doesn't want to fight anymore, you're not practicing for the person who doesn't want to fight. You're practicing for the person who does want to fight. You're practicing for the person who is trying to hurt you. Don't assume that somebody has less skill than you. Assume that they have equal skill to you. So you have to be on your toes. I'm not fighting for a bum in the street, somebody who's been drinking alcohol. I'm fighting and training for somebody who is also a fighter and is skilled with his feet, with his hands, with his body as a fighter. And in that way, I will keep my edge and my skills as sharp as possible. So to start this out, again, I'm going to go slow to begin with, and then we'll begin to speed it up. It's a situation where I don't know what he's going to do. He's simply going to step in to attack. Yeah. Now with a little more speed. Yeah. That's good. What's going on here is, again, he doesn't know what punch is coming. He's simply reacting to the situation. Doesn't know which punch, what kick, if the opponent's trying to grab. He might try even just to charge him. But he's not going to know what strike is coming at him. As you begin to pick up the skill slow, then start increasing the speed, making sure that you don't lose power and that your accuracy is right on the money. You don't always have to block. As somebody starts to step in to punch at you or kick at you, you could kick them or move out of the way and strike them. It doesn't always have to be a block. You can be offensive. Be careful to check your balance, making sure that your posture is correct. Keep your block strong. Make sure you're using as many parts of your body as you're able to. You're not just a puncher and you're not just a kicker. You've got to use your entire body.